Get ready to master your life and achieve your dreams with Lifestyle Mastery, the show that will transform the way you think about personal development, business, and entrepreneurship, and explores the fascinating world of self-improvement with the guidance of the renowned expert, Dr. Sheila Smith. From mastering your mindset to building a successful business, Dr. Smith and her guests will inspire, educate, and empower you to live your best life.
Welcome to Lifestyle Mastery. My name is Dr. Sheila Smith. I am your host, and today's episode, we have Jason R. Hill, the founder of the Owwll app. Jason is the founder of the mobile app Owwll. Owwll is a social networking platform that connects people instantly through private one-on-one audio calls. Whether personal or business, build rich relationships by calling who you want, charging what you want, connecting when you want. Additionally, he is the host of the nationally syndicated podcast, the Boca Raton Shrimp Tank, ran in collaboration with the FAU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. He's also well known for interviewing some of the brightest and the best CEOs and entrepreneurs around South Florida. Jason has been featured in multiple publications, including the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, VoyageMIA, and Investopedia, highlighting his forward-thinking approach that incorporates technology. Jason graduated with a bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Delaware. He was raised in Port Washington, New York, and he enjoys boating, sports, poker, and the outdoors. Jason currently resides in Parkland, Florida, with his wife and two lovely children. I am honored to bring up the CEO and founder of the Owwll app. Welcome, welcome, Jason.
Hoot, hoot.
Hoot.
How's everything going this afternoon?
Everything is fantastic. I heard about this app from someone on the social audio app Clubhouse, and they told me you got to check out this Owwll app. So I'm excited. I just want to say welcome, and I want to give you some words so that you can talk to our audience about it.
Right. So Owwll is pretty unique out there with all the social media platforms. You know, what COVID has taught us is we create a problem, right? We're all used to text messaging, and we're all used to getting a massive amount of inbound messages in our inboxes, and it's become, just ridiculous. We can't communicate anymore. And we've learned that the next generation has a major communication problem, right? When people get in the real world, they have to go on job interviews, they have to talk to people, and these communication skills are being lost. And that's also even trickling over to the personal side. When we look at the amount of depression in this world today, a lot of it starts because of human interaction not being there, right? But it all starts there with communication skills. Just like you and I were in high school or college, and we're like, you got to speak in front of 30 people and present, right? And that's what Owwll's all about. It's just kind of making it easy for people to communicate again and just have natural one-on-one conversations in a controlled environment. And Owwll controls all that because there's no cell phone being used. It's in-app phone calls. And what's really cool is people are held accountable on both levels. The person who made the outbound call and also the call receiver, right? Because there's money being transferred from the outbound caller to the receiver, either to network with that person or to get advice from that individual. And now that other person might not be in the right position, right? Just because you accepted money and you're there as, an expert on our profile, what happens if you weren't really paying attention to that individual, right? You're held accountable, right? There's too many platforms like Clubhouse where it was amazing during those early days, but then we came to realize, like, wait a second, there's no policing here. People jump into rooms, saying the incorrect things to females. I've seen racist comments on stage. And I'm like, how are these people allowed here? Who's policing this? And what Owwll has done a fantastic job is it self-polices itself. Owwll is just a great tool for every expert. I really believe it. You know, a lot of people say it's not for me. I go, how's that possible? Have you ever got onto Google and searched something and been frustrated that you can't get the answer quickly, right? Have you ever been on YouTube and you're like, why do I have to watch a 20-minute video to get that 1 minute answer? Well, now in Owwll, that solves that issue as well. So it's solving multiple things. And I think the more people just do one call, I say, you do one, it opens up your eyes. No one thinks they need Owwll until they make that first call. And then they're like, wow, I see the power of this platform and this is genius. That's what people say. But until they do a call, they will never see the value of the platform. And I always relate it right back to Uber. No one saw the value in Uber until they took that first ride, right? And then they're like, now I understand why I can get in a car with a stranger, right? At first, you're like, get in a car with a stranger based on reviews. Now we're like, that was genius looking back, right?
You know, this was, to me, why it's so great is it eliminates the picking of the brain.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like someone wants to call you for, oh, I'm going to just call you for a quick 5 minutes, but then it turns into a 2-hour phone call. Now you look up and your time has, you know, evaporated. So when they realize that they're paying something, they're putting some skin in the game.
Yes.
Then it eliminates that. Can you kind of go in on that part?
Yeah, especially with people with the letters DR next to their name, right? So being a doctor, you know, you spend hours and hours studying for tests and passing tests and you know, spending a fortune on that degree, right? And then now, you know, there's limited amount of people with that degree. So what happens is people, you know, read your profile and immediately go, hey, real quick, can I pick your brain? I went and did this, and I want your opinion. Everyone wants your opinion because they value your opinion, of course. And then all of a sudden you're like, I can't answer all these messages. Like, what do I do? You have an inbox full of messages on LinkedIn and Instagram saying, hey, could I pick your brain? And someone in your shoes, I know you get hundreds of those a month, right? Especially after a clubhouse room, when you speak in an open forum or you do a public speaking engagement, then your inbox fills up. And it's interesting. We did a case study on this. When Owwll was part of the FAU Tech Runway, we were forced to survey 25 people, and that was the question I asked. Like, what do you know, with the letters DR after your name? What, you know, obviously we did this with 25 different types of experts, but what do you do with all these incoming messages? And you know what the most common theme was? Oh, I'm really good at using my intuition on who to respond to, right? And I'm saying, well, that's not always right because you're leaving a lot on the table. So there was no tool to figure out like, okay, take all these hundreds of people that reach out to you that say, I want to pick your brain, and filter them somewhere to get the ones that actually value paying for your time because they really want to pick your brain and they're willing to spend money, but there's no way to say, hey, can I pick your brain? I'll pay you $20. It always came out awkward. And then you on the receiving side never had a system. You know, do I send them a Zoom link and say, you know, it's $20, but then the Zoom link, it's like, you know, then they could chew your ear off on the Zoom for too much time. It wasn't a time frame. Then it wasn't even a report. Like if someone did something wrong on the Zoom, you couldn't report them, right? So there was no boundaries around the Zoom meeting. So there's really no system in place, I came to realize. So the pick your brain is genius because now all of a sudden you have a way to then just have a script. Every person who sends you that message every month, just send them a script. I'm happy to have you pick my brain. I do all my intro calls on Owwll. My price is listed on my profile at $20 for 10 minutes of my time. I welcome you to join me. I'm on every week on Owwll, you know, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 12. And you tell them those are your office hours. It's first come, first serve because you're running your business and you're extremely busy. And we've seen such good impact with that outbound message. And now here's the best part. The people who didn't value your time go away, right? If they weren't willing to spend 10, 20 bucks to speak with you. And we know that 10, 20 bucks is not about the money for you. It's about filtering the people that really value, you know, your time, your opinion. And now what's really unique is when you let's just take 100 people who messaged you, only 10 of them jump on that call, let's say, right? Depends on expertise. You're going to have a much higher ratio because of the DR after your name, right? So now all of a sudden the 10 people that come in, but here's the best part, 2 or 3 of them actually want to hire you for something. Exactly. And that's the key. And that's after the survey, going back to the FAU Tech Runway, that was what was missing when people said, well, I use my intuition. And you want to know why I knew that was wrong? Because I was the guy on the other side of that. I was the person reaching out often to business leaders, literally holding up money in the air saying, hey, I'm looking at your conference and I'd like to consider having Owwll at your conference. And, they didn't respond. So I'm like, how did you not respond? This is like a lead sitting in the air. Just shows you like people just don't check all their messages. It's not always their fault. They have too many inboxes, right? Instagram has 3 inboxes itself. Then you got TikTok, Facebook Messenger, Telegram now, Slack. After a while, like we forget, if you're an individual, you might have 10, 15 inboxes, right? But when you're a business owner, and you have multiple businesses, all of a sudden you have accounts for all of those and all inboxes. So before you know it, you have over 100 inboxes plus the email inboxes, and things go to spam. And what you start to realize is people are losing out on all the people who truly want to work with them. And I'm that person. I'm a business owner, and I need those services. The rise of the solo entrepreneur has skyrocketed the last few years since COVID. They need these services, and they feel unheard because they send messages out and they don't get responses. And if they just had a route, if that person just always auto responded back, say, hey, I'm always available on Owwll, then these needs would be served. And ready for this, you could hire the right individual because you could feel them out, right? After a 10-minute call, worst case, you spend 10, 20, 30 bucks on that call with that individual, because most people aren't charging their regular rates. They understand that this is a call that's coming in out of the blue, right? It's not, a scheduled meeting on Zoom where you're showing spreadsheets. You're just having a natural one-on-one audio call that's private and not being recorded. And that's also big, not being recorded, of course. Yeah. I left that out earlier. We're sick of being recorded out there, right? Huh. On certain platforms that make sense, like podcasts, we want to be recorded. But in other times, we just want to be ourselves and ask natural questions. And that's where Owwll really serves a purpose as a tool, right? It doesn't replace other tools. It's a tool that fits in to everything that everybody has. And when done properly, you could see results like yours, where all of a sudden you have 50 reviews and it's the right people reaching out, and you're not wasting time. A lot of people say, well, I love your platform, but this or that, when it comes to time, I go, I don't want to charge, X for my time. I go, you're missing the boat. It's about building relationships from these calls that come in. If you're trying to charge $100 for 10 minutes of your time and you get 1 call a month or 0 calls, I think you're missing out. These are calls designed to act as a filter so the right people call you. So out of the 100 people, you don't get 100 calls, you got 10 calls, and 2 become customers or clients. And now that saved you time. We're saving people time, eliminating friction to get through instantly. And when we look at the process on LinkedIn or Instagram, you send a message. Then what happens? You got to set up a meeting. Then you set up a meeting, and the meeting could cancel. There's a high cancellation rate. And that sometimes is not, good. You want it. People who need advice, especially solo entrepreneurs, they need it tomorrow or today, right? They don't need it 3 weeks from today. By then, they're like, crap, I wasted so much money waiting for an answer, right?
That's the beauty of this. The details, you can see the person's title. You can see that they're live. You can look in their profile. Some of them even have videos underneath, displaying who they are and what they do. So you can kind of get an idea, but talking to them in their natural element. Like when I had Shella call me yesterday, it's just like an old friend, because I spoke to her before, and she gave me so much value for my business. She gave me $1 million idea off of a 10-minute phone call, and she called me. That's the value of this app, just being able to just reach people in all kinds of industries. And whatever your question is, these people are actually knowledgeable that are on here. There's just not people that are trying to, get a dollar. These people have knowledge, and they're willing to share it, all of it, not keeping any secrets, but they're spilling, honestly, their guts, as we New Yorkers say. They're spilling their guts, telling you everything because they want to see you succeed. And that's the biggest thing that's exciting to me. And the other part is, you called me. When I first got on the app, you were like my 3rd call. And I looked at your app while you were talking to me, and I said, wait a minute, this is the owner. The owner is calling me
Yeah.
a brand new person. Who does that?
Yes.
Why do you do that?
That's a great question. I actually have the most amount of calls on the platform because I lead by example, right? You see too many founders that create ideas, and then they don't actually understand their platform. They don't understand their customer. They're not all in on it. They're all in on making money, right? So they immediately think, okay, I have to raise capital, hire marketing professionals, hire people to do what you're speaking about, and control the business from the top down. And
Yes.
and there's a time for that, but that time's not when you're a startup. When you're a startup, you have to be all in on the ground level. So that way, as the platform grows, you know where people are coming from. When you look at any successful entrepreneur that's really scaled their business all the way to the top, including people like Mark Zuckerberg, right? But when you looked at how he started Facebook, he started himself. He was on the platform. He was clicking like. He had a profile, and people automatically followed him. He put his to the top, right? And when you look at all the successful entrepreneurs that I've ever seen, I run a podcast where I've interviewed them. They all started from the bottom, doing garbage, right? Literally taking the garbage out of their office. Being that Owwll's a startup, I truly believe in the product we're offering and networking and relationships. So I'm using it no different than you're using it, right? I'm building relationships to build Owwll, right? There's people on the platform that have given me so much knowledge on how to improve Owwll from all aspects, from a technical aspect, also a marketing, right? We're in the marketing race against some of the 800-pound gorillas like LinkedIn, right? And we have to figure out how to grow, to compete in that world before we vanish, right? Because it's scale or vanish in the app world, because they're so expensive to build and maintain. So I just truly believe that every single person who downloads this app, if I could call them when they're a new expert, because new experts, I still approve them to this day. I approve them, so I'm the first one to follow them. So I get the first notification, and I stop what I'm doing often, and I get on there and I call them. And a lot of times it's in the car. I called you yesterday, and I just like, I got notification, Sheila's live, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I call her, I'm in the car right now. And here's the thing, everyone has time. Often we all use this excuse of I'm busy and I don't have time. So people, of course, if they value it, they have time. They don't understand it, so they don't have time for things they don't understand or value. So I look at Owwll as it's complete BS and it's complete excuses, because Owwll gives you more time back in your life, and it gives you the ability to network on demand 24 hours a day. Right, I am doing a challenge right now where I have to call someone outbound once per day at minimum, and we did this with a group of 21 others. And how cool is this? Is like every day I could log in while driving to work or home from work and call someone, but I have a choice. I could turn on the music or I could listen to a podcast, but I'm using the choice to spend my time wisely and get educated from other experts on our platform. No different than reading a book, right? Why do people never read? Like, I don't have time to read. I go, that's BS. Somehow I look at your Netflix account and every single new movie out and this or that, or every NFL player. So when I hear people don't have time, I'm like, I'm married, I have 2 kids, I make time for them, right? Then I make time for my developers every morning at 8:30 in the morning. I never miss one, Monday through Friday. And then I have time for my community, right? I have time to network. We all do. It's just putting things in perspective on what you value. And with Owwll, it's just such BS because it's 24/7. So my point is always, it's like, life gives you, all these opportunities, and I truly believe that Owwll is a platform that will be there for everyone to make major impact, because it's just simple. Human connection will have positive results. So the more people that jump on one-on-one phone calls, we know things will happen. I bet you one day there's going to be marriages started, after having conversations, because people are sick of online dating and just randomly was talking to a person, and then I met him at Starbucks, then went on a date. Like, why is that not going to happen? It will happen, right? Because it's just, we're not doing anything crazy. We're just making it easy to communicate again in a safe environment. And then and the big part, when you read what Owwll is about for personal or for business, right? You know how many baby boomers have retired and just miss speaking with people or want to speak about personal subjects about their family, right? Every family has issues. Being in the financial service business, I was their therapist at the time, not only for money, but for personal situations. They would tell me all the family drama. And lots of times people just want to talk to somebody and actually just like they miss it. They were in the work environment. Now they're retired and they just put on the TV all the time and they're like, I just want to talk. So Owwll's a personal tool as well, where you could talk about adoption, if you're going down that route. You could talk about medical diseases you've had, right? I'm a cancer survivor. I've posted that openly and publicly. Oh, nice. And ready for this? But how nice would it have been if I could have searched testicular cancer on Owwll and 3 men popped up and I could ping them, say, request to go live. And now I'm talking to someone who went through what I had been through. Wow. And I could just have a conversation and think about the amount of females that go through breast cancer situations. How nice is it to sometimes not speak to someone that's in your inner circle, someone that's just an outsider, that you actually just feel like I could tell them things because they're not going to judge me. They don't know me. So how good is Owwll on that perspective, just on a personal level? And we've seen great success stories where people share knowledge of personal situations, and it could be literally a medication. We had one person that had multiple sclerosis. They talked to someone else with multiple sclerosis. They were sharing feedback what medications work for them. So the power of Owwll goes way deeper than business. And I know that over time, as people share stories like you did with Chella, but then people start really voicing that on socials and on podcasts, all of a sudden we're gonna go to hundreds of thousands of users, and the bottom line is there will be impact. And of course, me as a founder, I won't stop. Back to your question, I will keep calling people and educating them on the impact, because I believe so much in the mission. And and I hope one day to continue that call volume, just because we get larger. I think it will always continue. I hope to always be the leader in call volume for that reason. But Chella will probably catch me. She loves networking and she loves calling and talking to people as well. So
I caught what you said earlier, and I just want to reiterate it. You lead with an inverted pyramid. You're on the bottom, everyone else is on the top. You have your foot in the game. You are actually doing what we're doing. And I look at your numbers. I actually look at your numbers and I keep saying, I'm going to catch him. It's going to be hard, but I'm going to catch him. And that's so inspiring that you are actually in the grind with us. We are doing this, and what makes us want to get better and be on the app more is because we want to make you proud.
Yeah.
We want to say that we're all in with you because we believe in this. Can you talk about, because I can see some people saying, well, I don't want to make a phone call. I don't want to be stuck on a phone call. Yeah. Can you explain the time frame? Because I think that will really help.
Yes. So when someone comes in the app, they could only make outbound calls, right? And they see all these professionals that show a live flashing button that are available on demand right at that moment to speak with. And all that individual has to do is hit the call button, and the phone starts ringing to that expert, and then the expert picks up within usually 20 to 30 seconds. And the beauty of it is that, the expert gets to list the price that they want. There's experts that charge very little, usually $1 to $5, because they just use it as a filter mechanism. They don't really care about $5 or $1 or even $20 for the call. There's other experts that charge $100, $200 for a 10-minute call, but all calls start at 10 minutes. So the beauty of this platform is if you're an expert, worst case scenario, someone paid to speak with you, it's 10 minutes. I'm sure you get through a 10-minute call if you really weren't feeling it. And the beauty of it is that that person who made that call can request an extension, right? They could add 10 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 20 more minutes, whatever they selected. That expert has their price listed. It's crystal clear. And what's really unique is that expert has the choice. They could accept the extension or decline it. And that's what gives people boundaries. Introverts love our platform for that reason. Introverts always feel like, okay, well, I don't like networking because I jump into a situation on Zoom and then I can't get the person off Zoom and I'm a nice person. You know, a lot of introverts are super nice and they want to get back, but then they regret it after the Zoom meeting. Like, oh, I just burned an hour of my time. I really didn't want to be on there. The first 7 minutes, I noticed this was not someone I want to stay in this meeting with, and they felt very uncomfortable. So what do? They stop doing them, right? But Owwll enables them to do it in a controlled environment. There's no video, audio only, no sharing cell phone numbers, right? And that person gets the choice. They get the choice to deny the request and nicely say, sorry, I have another meeting coming up. I couldn't accept it. And if that person calls them again in the future, then they don't have to accept calls. They get declined, like, oh, I had a worse call with that person. I won't accept it. They never have to accept a call from that individual. And what's really cool is if you want to share your information, that's up to you, like other platforms. You could tell that person, hey, take down my phone number. I'm going to read it off to you right now. Take down my email. Ready for this? After this call, click my Instagram account or LinkedIn and send me a message with your email. It's up to the person what they would like to do at the end of the day. But in the app phone call, you are not required. If someone says, hey, do you mind giving me your cell phone? Like, it's no. You know, that's something that I don't feel comfortable doing. That's why I use Owwll. So that way I could do in-app phone calls and it's in a controlled environment. And that's why we like eBay and PayPal. They created a marketplace that's controlled where the seller is able to feel confident they're going to get paid on the items once they've been received. So Owwll's very similar. It has those protections even to get a refund if something goes wrong. If the person lied about their expertise or the person picked up a call and all of a sudden they really driving the car, there was 2 kids in the back seat and they heard screaming. They're like, look, the person, you know, I'm sure is very knowledgeable. They picked up at the wrong time and it just wasn't the right atmosphere and I didn't get value out of the call because of it. Then we get a refund, right? If calls drop, you know, it happens all the time. We can't control if someone has low cell signal or bad Wi-Fi. It happens on other audio apps too, you know, but in our case, we have protections in place to allow that caller to get a refund, which is huge. So yeah, so going back to your first question is like the protections in place are amazing for that outbound caller who just signs up, they make one phone call and they know, oh wow, you know, I could call the people I want to speak to. You're not sucked into a situation of jumping on networking meeting and then all of a sudden like, oh, this was not the expert I really was looking for. You're able to filter the people that are like-minded that you want to speak to and no one's forcing you to make calls. It's all in your hands. You can spend $1 a month, no money a month, or thousands of dollars a month. It's really all up to you, right? But it really is really unique that the power the platform has when you know how to use it, right? Like anything else, it is a learning experience when you first jump on. You see all these people that are available, and you're like, wait, like, can I really call them? Like a lot of people don't, because they're like, wait, that really meant I could call them? Like, yeah, that really meant you hit that call button, their phone is ringing, and money's transferred from your account to their account, and you could add money via credit card and make real withdrawals. And I think that's what we're seeing is the real withdrawals. People are like, oh my God, like the money's really going into my account, real cash, you know, and I really, you know, was paid for the knowledge provided. And then real, you know, meetings happening outside Owwll. We're not saying stay in Owwll. We're saying start it in Owwll.
That's right.
Build a relationship and then have other things happen outside of Owwll, right? We look at LinkedIn and Instagram. It's like not everything stays in there, right? You meet in person. Let's have Owwll be that tool in your toolbox that's designed for those intro meetings and building relationships, and then let the right ones, of course, blossom, you know, where it makes sense.
That's a perfect segue. What made you decide, coming from the financial industry, to want to create the Owwll app?
That's a great question. That's a loaded question.
I know, right?
I go on for like an hour because this is one of the biggest decisions in my life, right? So, you know, all started back in you know, New York City days, right? We'll go back there. We'll start from that end where, you know, I was running a successful financial service firm, grew up to a team of 6 financial advisors, and spoke on stage in front of 500 people at 27 years old about leveraging technology and creating a team environment and how that would make an impact better for your customers and clients long term. And I moved to Florida. I did the thing you don't do in the financial service. Go from New York, you know, tri-state area, all my clients, and move to Florida, where our business is designed to do in person.
Yes.
You know, when we're talking 6-7 years ago, you know, before the COVID days, you met people in person, you shook hands, and you built relationships the old-fashioned way. Yes, things were being done on Zoom, but not in the financial service business. So I started leveraging technology before others in my industry. I believed in, just the way websites were designed. I believed in the customer experience with emails. And if you search me, you're going to see a ton of reviews out there that people actually don't know about. So the same extension of what you see on Owwll actually exists in that world as well, because I'm still a registered financial advisor to this day. And what happened is I moved to Florida. I started the podcast, The Shrimp Tank, to separate myself from the gazillion financial advisors in South Florida that existed. So I had to be unique. So I interviewed entrepreneurs in my local office with the Florida Atlantic University, and it was a success. It started with 5 episodes, then 10. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, how are you pulling this off? How did you get 100 entrepreneurs to your local office? And really good ones too. And I just said, it's just, rinse, repeat, just no matter what, get someone in that office every week and do an interview. And before you know it, they stack up and you become a leader in your community that people say, oh, talk to Jason, he knows everybody, right? And that's where I became that super connector, what you're speaking about, and how it kind of switched over to Owwll, because COVID hit and I said, wait a second, the writing is on the wall. People don't want to just go to their 9-to-5s anymore. They're getting more knowledgeable on social media. They're like, screw this. You only live once. YOLO, right? And all of a sudden, I'm like, I looked at the numbers, in Florida, the amount of LLCs, opening, right? And the amount of Instagram handles with businesses. Everyone doing a 9-to-5 was starting a business on the side, their side hustle, to try to get out of their 9-to-5.
Right.
And I realized like the at-home businesses were scaling, right? You don't need a brick and mortar. You create a business for nothing today, literally $0, and you could have a business with no overhead. And that's where like light bulb went off. Owwll can be a tool where people could do it from home, right? People miss human interaction to speak with one another. Owwll is a connection of who I am, being a connector, that came from being in the financial service business, being in the podcast world. And all of a sudden, I'm like, well, Owwll just helps me connect people in a much larger atmosphere, right? Millions of people will be connected through Owwll, not one-on-one, that I've done in the past. And I took a leap like everybody else is. I'm no different. I'm a father. I screw up. As a father at home, as a husband. I make mistakes, and I share some of those mistakes on social media. I screwed up shit with Owwll, my financial service business, with customers, with clients. Like, we're not perfect. So Owwll just kind of was like the aha moment in my life, like everyone else had. It's like, why don't I go for it? Why don't I go for something that everyone tells me can't be done? Right? It's, I've seen so many entrepreneurs come through my office, and the one that sticks out to me, my first guest ever, was one Celsius Beverage, the original founder. And how cool is this? I had the current CEO on my podcast and did a large event with him this year. And I saw this company, same thing. Everyone said, can't be done. You can't compete against Coke and Pepsi. Become the most Googled stock in the last 12 months, right? Celsius Beverage. If you Google it, most Googled stock, right? And one of the best performing stocks and one of the best beverages in the energy drink sector, right? And I looked at it as like, you look at all these entrepreneurs who've done it. What do they have in common? They just kept going and went for it. They believed in it so much, and they ignored the noise. And I said, something, I feel like I'm at a point in my life that I could pull this off, right? I have the connections through all the hundreds of podcasts. I now have over 300 podcast shows that I've done in person. I said, I think I could do this because of the connections I have, the knowledge I've received from all the entrepreneurs, and the support backing me from everyone in the community that has seen me network and introduce them. And now it was my turn. It was my turn to finally ask, like, hey, I need some help. And I went for it. And but it doesn't go without sacrifice. The truth is, Sheila, I have risked it all, right? I've risked my financial service career, right? There's regulations with what I have done. I've gotten a lot of heat from compliance departments, but I need to be a financial advisor in order to pay for Owwll. So everyone's like, why would you do both? I go, like, bullshit. I go, very simple, I do both, because one's paying for the other.
That's right.
The community wouldn't exist if I wasn't able to make enough money to keep it alive financially. I would love to spend 100% of my time on Owwll, but realistically, I have to do both until we get to a point of profitability that I could finally tell the clients that I serve, hey, I'm doing this for a greater good. And you know what they're going to tell me? They're going to clap for me, because they're going to
Right.
say, we understand why you're doing it, and they're going to cheer me on. They're not going to be disappointed, right? Because I've left them in a great position with a group that we have. And the truth is, I've taken, the idle loan back in the day for my main business, right? But it's, of course, that's out there that I took. And you can Google that and find out how much I took, right? The second thing, I took an IRA distribution back in the day when you were allowed to during COVID.
Right.
Refinanced my mortgage. I've sold my condo, and I've sacrificed my bank account, my savings, everything, my lifestyle, right? Think about, I was going good. You said earlier, like, how would you do this? You got two beautiful kids, beautiful wife, and you moved to Florida. You pulled off the big jump from New York to Florida, which everyone always like, do it, but you can't do it until retirement. I did it in my 30s, right? And all of a sudden, I made that big jump, and now this is even a bigger jump, a jump that didn't need to be taken, a jump that I could have said I could have been on cruise control the rest of my life financially. That's the truth, right? I had great clients that I worked really hard to get in New York City, grinding and sacrificing in my 20s. And I finally pulled off like great success in that field. So I look at it as like, this is just me going big, right? I'm laying it all on the line. And that's why people are rooting for me, because a lot of people know that I've laid so much on the line, and that's why that call volume is so high. Going back to it, it's like, I'm all in, right? I have literally, for the community and the platform, have said, willing to do all what I just mentioned, versus just saying, hey, I'm going to shut it down and I'm going to start putting some PowerPoints together. And when an investor comes around, then I'll take the risk, right? Which is the most common way in the mobile app world. The most common way an app like this would raise over $3 million typically, to really hire employees, get the infrastructure. And I'm doing it the old school way, the New York way, which is just grinding it from the bottom until we get to the top. And you know what? Then when you're on the top, everyone then is going to be like, oh, he's so lucky because that. He's so lucky because of that. Or he's so lucky because of that. And the truth is, no, I grinded to 300 plus episodes, texting people, calling people, reminding them, getting no-show, being canceled on, doing podcast interview after podcast interview, and just continuously doing it at 100 plus miles an hour until one day happens, until we go and get it to the next level, of course. So that's the short story.
Man, I'm telling you, people are going to be, especially even the people that are already on the Owwll app, they're going to be so inspired to hear this story, because I think that people love an underdog story when they hear what people really have to go through to get something like this off the ground. Most people don't talk about the behind the scenes, being transparent. And I know a lot of it is because us Northerners, we tend to be very transparent. We don't care. We don't have pretense. We just, it is what it is. And so to be able to hear that you've put literally everything on the line, for me, that makes me want to even spend more time on it. It makes me say to myself, okay, there's some gaps in the day that I can spend extra time on it. I remember getting on and telling someone else to get on, and they got a $10 like a $10.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Yes. So, we want to encourage you to invite your friends, your family, your colleagues, of course. And what better way than, helping you do this via a referral code, right? So you get every person gets a referral code in the app. And what happens is when they use your referral code, they get $10 to make a couple calls on the house, and then you get $10. And it's really been a great success. I would say 75% of people who download Owwll use a referral code, and they come in also, a little differently because someone's explaining to them how to use it, right? And that also is helping build the community from the ground up, where a lot of other platforms, you're like, oh, download this app, figure it out on your own. And there's no referral codes. And a lot of times people just pay for marketing, right? They have marketing budgets where they just throw a bunch of ads up on Facebook. They pay a bunch of influencers, and people have gotten smarter. They're like, that influencer doesn't use that product. They're just talking about the product. Then you go into Owwll and like the influencer's like, I love Owwll, I love it, it's the best platform ever. Then you go to the platform that have 0 calls. You're like, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
That was full of shit, right?
Right.
So I look at it as very simple. It's like, no, let's grow from the community up, and let's let them get the benefits right from the ground up. So really simple. You refer 10 of your friends, you got $100 sitting in your account. You get an email right after they use your code and they get into the app, and now you get some extra calls on the house. You know, it's not about the $10. It's about the ability to build a connection with the $10, right? And new experts have to charge $1 for the first 10 calls. So how cool is this? Someone gets $10, they literally could call 10 new experts and have 10 sessions, 10 minutes each. And where else can you have 10 immediate meetings? I mean, everyone's like, oh, I don't know about your, what do you not know? Who else gives you 10 meetings for free? And that's why we kicked off Mentorship Mondays. Because now what we're doing is, you know, I started with the people on my podcast. I said, hey, whoever wants to participate, Mentorship Mondays will go on, become an Owwll expert, lower your price to $1, and really simple, give back. Give back that knowledge as an entrepreneur and show the world how you did it, just like we're doing this podcast interview. And people can download Owwll and immediately get that $10 and call 10 of those mentors. We'll do something fun today. So everyone who listens to this podcast and got all the way to 48 minutes of it, of course, will get this code, SS745371. And all you have to do is email us at feedback@owwll.com. And that's spelled with 2 W's and 2 L's, because owls are wise and you're going to love it, of course. And then just put Lifestyle Mastery, the name of this podcast, in the subject line. And you can email us anything you want, but I'll then go into your account and an additional $10. So your new sign up, you're going to get the usual $10 using our code, and I'm manually going to match it and do $20. And we'll run that all the way to the end of August, because I understand podcasts. You jump in to listen to the show, right? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I missed it, you know, or, you know, it was 1 week long, but most people listen to podcasts like a month later or 2 months later. So we'll run it all the way through the end of August. But no trickery. You have to put Lifestyle Mastery, and you have to email us in, of course. And I'll do an even double bonus. You want to do a double bonus, Sheila?
Yes, please.
Put this down. If they call you and then post what they learned on the social media platform, tag us at Owwll App on social media, we will do a $25 bonus on top of that. Right? But that's for new signups only. New signups only. If you're an existing user, you know, you already know her, so that's not fair. So we're going to do new signups only. You're going to get the $10 match. And then plus, if you call Sheila, post about what you learned, what the knowledge she provided, we'll do a $25 one, because I want the world to really see that knowledge that is coming out of those conversations, because at the end of the day, that is the power of our platform. Because when people see that knowledge that was shared during that quick 10, 20, 30-minute call with you, I know that that's going to make much more impact than $25, right? That's going to impact the next generation and the next 100 people who saw that post to impact their lives. So that's why it's not about the $25. It's about just sharing the story.
I want to give you, Jason, your last parting words before we close out. Anything you want to say before we close out, feel free. Floor is yours.
Well, I'm going to reverse it to you. I want to hear your best story on the Owwll platform that has impacted you, right? You've had over 50 plus calls. I see your reviews. So it might be more calls. I'm just reading the reviews because not everyone lists a review, of course. But tell us that one story that sticks out and made an impact to either your business, or it doesn't always have to be business, like I said earlier, personal life. Something that just like it, you got the, you know, the tingles after a call.
It was Will to Rise.
Ah, he's awesome.
It was Will to Rise. He called me one day, and it was, I think, late last week. And he was talking to me, and he was asking me a personal question. Because, you know, I've got relationships now on this app where we can talk just like we have been long lost friends.
Yes.
And Will, we started talking, and I was telling him my point of view. And then he started talking, and I started sharing things that I think I haven't shared with anyone ever in my life. because I felt he needed to hear it. And
Yes.
that made me so transparent until we both started tearing up. And so just the vulnerability when you have talked to a person over and over because they add so much value
Yeah.
in your lives. I've met so many people. I can say at least 15 people that I feel that connection with. And so when I have a question about even the smallest of things, or even like you said earlier, when you don't want to talk to the people that are close to you, your circle of friends, you want to go
Sure.
to someone outside. That's what I experienced that day when I spoke to Will to Rise. And so there are people on this platform that are worth their weight in gold, truly.
Absolutely love it. And that's the point. The unexpected came, right? When you put yourself in a position to take a call from Will or make the call to Will, I don't know which direction it went, but then all of a sudden they're like, how did this just happen? I just joined this app, and all of a sudden, like, I'm sharing my life story with, because that's what life's about, right? That's how relationships are formed, right? You met people out of the blue after like a week on vacation, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, those people are in my life for the rest of my life somehow after a week vacation, hanging out at a bar, in the Caribbean or something. That's happened to me and you and everyone. And that's no different with Owwll. That's the point we're making here, is that you didn't know Will through 2 months ago. And now all of a sudden you're like, this is someone that you're like, Will's going to be part of your life the rest of your life at the end of the day. I know it. And I'll share my story. So you share yours. Mine was interesting. Mine was a project going back to FAU, right? So I've done a lot with FAU. Part of it was, for, the podcasts, right? And just interviewing entrepreneurs with them. And then, but it's interesting, and maybe it's all tied somehow, like life is one big circle somehow. Like they use the Owwll logo, so we always have to be careful. Like they are not associated with FAU, because our podcast, we have a commercial talks about Owwll. Our guests go on Owwll. And you know what we did? One of the professors allowed us to do a class project that was built into their curriculum. There was an entrepreneurship class for 2 months in the summer. And how cool is this? 30, 40 students had to call 3 people on Owwll. We did this last summer. And how unique was this? That they had to write a report about each person they spoke with, and really, what the impact came from those calls, wow. Right? And some improvements they felt could be done for Owwll, and do they see Owwll as a good tool, right? And I was speaking to Renee on this app, and Renee, calls me, and she's like, Jason, I just got the chills. She wrote a book about finding her voice, being through difficult times, as a female, yeah. and overcame it. And she's like, and she just, like, you could hear in her voice, she's like, I just got a call. Like it was me on the other side, right? When I was 19 years old and I was struggling, and all these reports, I still have them. And I read, paragraph after paragraph, how many students thought this was going to be a joke exercise, like calling these people. The professor just, really want to see, like, would this be a better tool for them to call entrepreneurs that they were interested in, versus bullshitting it and like going to their friend who is an entrepreneur to write a report about entrepreneurship. They always struggle to find real entrepreneurs. When you're a student, they don't know them, right? Owwll enables them to call real entrepreneurs and filter to the types they wanted to speak to. But what resonated was that when people in their shoes took that chance, because there was a little force there, just like you and I were forced to publicly speak at times. And then we look back in life, things that are hard. Yeah. What happens? You get the best results, right? You feel better about exercising after the exercise, but not before it, right? But and same with easy shit. Easy shit like McDonald's, easy, it's cheap, but then you feel like shit. Well, with the Owwll calls that came through the college students, I think we're on to gold here. I think that Owwll, based on the report I have, hopefully one day we could get some type of nonprofit to partner with us and get a huge grant and put money into a lot of college student accounts on Owwll. Wow. They could call people like you. Ready for this? Career advice, right? Think about this. How many students struggle with, going 4 years in college to then graduate and be like, shit, what I watched on TikTok was bullshit, right? What happens if they talk to me about being a financial advisor and I say, I got news for you. None of this shit is analytical. It is all about people skills and communicating and talking and putting yourself out there and networking and networking and networking. And guess what? And networking. That's right? It. And speaking, because you're never going to get a client. You're going to have to build those clients from scratch. And it's not about stock analytics and performance. That stuff comes later once you have clients. So like, you know how many people become a doctor and then regret it because they didn't speak to other people that would have just told them the truth. So the reports that came back from the students were amazing on both sides for career advice, you know, the reality of what these entrepreneurs were really going through. And also on the personal side, what Renee kind of showed me was like this individual needed help and she didn't know how to get that help because everyone around her was too close. Renee was far enough and it was safe enough where that person felt just like you talked about with Will, that they could open up to Renee. And how unique is this that Owwll, you know, one day, you know, again, with that little shove, you know, because no one's going to make calls when you're a student. You would never have spoken in front of 30 people. And if someone said, why don't you speak in front of 30 people and do a class project? Nope. You say, no way, skip that course. One says you have to in order to pass, you do it. Well, if you have to communicate through a phone device, think about the skills that will be taught. And taking a step further, we all know that society has a problem when marriage rates go down statistically, right? You know, we hear people speaking about this all the time. Peter, the most famous one would be Jordan Peterson. He speaks about this frequently. And we could run to society issues and meant more suicide is, of course, occurring, especially with young men who are really just not forming relationships with females. And there's so much data on all this stuff. I'm not going into detail, but what if Owwll, you know, started at the ground level, right, at college campuses and help people go back to your traditional phone calls? Like I had to call a girl and go, hey, you want to go on a date? But it's the same strategy. It's the same. It's just keeping it simple. It's like, here's a way we could bring back those old skills. Because people are fighting me like, but Jason, everyone's going that way and Owwll's going that way. Good luck. They tell me all the people like, yeah, I don't know about that because people are going back to messaging. And I go, yeah, we're going into the whole of a place that, you know, could be very bad one day. Owwll's going to be there to save the day. And that's from those reports that I've seen. Now, one day I hope, you know, as we get larger, I go full blown into that. I can have a whole department at Owwll that focuses on universities, and then we prove it. We prove it in one classroom, then we prove it in, you know, in that college, multiple classrooms, then we jump to the next college. I don't have, obviously, the time on my hands and the capacity to do that at this time, but the reports are there. They're sitting in a Dropbox folder, and the knowledge that they've written down is just proof we're on to something that is way more impactful than people think of just making a call to pick someone's brain, right? Because I think too often people just relate Owwll to making money, and I'm calling bullshit on that. It's about the other, you know, things that come with human interaction and on the personal level. And that's why I, you know, poured my heart and soul into this and risked everything, because there's not an easy day in my life where, you know, I'm able to look back and be like, everyone's clapping for me. Yes, it's exciting at times, but I'm on a roller coaster. One day on a Friday, I'm like, we are good. We're going the right direction. Next Friday, I go, should I shut this thing down? I was like, this is hard. I'm like, we're, you know, my bank account's going straight to the floor. There's only so much beating you could take when there's not much profit going on, right, at the end of the day. But when I take a step back sometimes, drink coffee, get in a good mood, read those reports, like, what am I talking about? All these idiots are wrong. They don't know. They didn't read the reports. All the angel investors, all the private equity guys, all the VCs, everyone is there just sprinkling noise to try to get you away from your dreams and your passion. And guess what? Everyone could poke holes. Hey, your social media should be like that. Yesterday, somebody said, hey, you know, I see your marketing. It's, you know, but I would do it better. And I'm like, I won't use a name, but ready for this? You know, we have thousands and thousands of people using Owwll, and they tell me they could do it better. They've done it before, this and that. I go, but wait a second, you only have a few thousand followers on your profile. I go, if you're so fucking good at helping other companies, why do you? I have more downloads than you have followers. Followers are the easiest thing to get. They hit the follow button. I had to have people go into an app. Literally, I had to go into an app, hit the download button, create a profile. And I have more people that have done that than have followed you. But you're sitting here lecturing me how I've done it wrong. And I'm like, we're not perfect. I don't know if I've done it right. All I know is, you know, we have over 100 brand ambassadors that sign legal agreements, and about 50 of them are left, right? Because you have fallout rate, of course, with any type of program like that. But that's amazing. 50% have stayed and believe in the mission. And guess what? We got to that number when no one thought we'd ever get to that number. So when people just like to criticize you and bat you down, I'm just sitting there like, you know what? A nice thing is you just sit silently. You let them talk. You're like, and you just like, yeah, you're right. I'm not doing very well. You're like, you're right. You just, but inside you're just listening. You're listening and let them talk and talk and talk, and they just don't realize they're making a fool of themselves, because we're sitting there like and you see it all the time. The Instagram handle that says I can get you to 100,000 followers. They have like 200 followers, and you're like,
that's the question.
Then they're like, oh no, but not me, not my account, because I don't focus on my account. That's what they always say, and I'm sitting here like, I'm like, you're gonna help me. You're gonna explode it that quickly, but I'm like, show me proof. I'm always a number guy, right? Financials, numbers don't lie. New Yorkers don't, and New Yorkers, we call it out.
That's it.
New Yorkers, we could see, okay, you do all this. Very simple. Why is on your LinkedIn account you don't have 100 employees then? Where are all the employees?
Yeah.
Well, the employees don't want to list your company. Please, anyone who works for a company that they're proud of, and I'll use Celsius Beverage again, there's like 5,000 employees, right? They're proud to work there. You work at Disney World, you're proud. All of a sudden, like, oh, well, my employees, the excuses come up, right? But they could poke holes, but thankfully, like, as an entrepreneur, I've learned so much through my podcasts that, just listen. You always hear this all the time, and it's true. It's like, sometimes you just take a step back and listen, and they'll share the things and just don't take it all serious. The critics, I kind of now I'm like, I don't believe that. And I read those papers going back to the students. I know I'm the one who sees the text messages and then the reviews on Apple that are legitimate, saying how good of an app this is. And I see the messages on LinkedIn I receive. Every person who puts LinkedIn on their profile, I connect with them. And then they send me a message of who they spoke to and how this app is going to make impact. I know that data. They're just making a judgment based on looking at an app for 1 minute on a website, right? Like 1 minute on a website. And then what ends up happening is someone believes them, and then they tell their lie to somebody else. I'm like, yeah, but them and them said that your app doesn't do this. I go, before you listen to them and them, did you know that them and them, they didn't download Owwll. They didn't actually see it. They went to a website and watched a video about Owwll. And they made a judgment call about what Owwll can or cannot do. And that's where I just, thankfully, I have very thick skin, my New Yorker common sense, and I do, know that from my father, who's a mentor to me. He was a business owner in New York City, and he just dragged me around and taught me to communicate and to just, lead with, honesty and integrity and just speak the truth. Don't bullshit. You know the answer, just I don't know. And then people value that. So I just think today we got into this world of like just too much BS and lying because social media and figures and followers, and a lot of that stuff is like it's not real. And as a leader, you have to just ignore the noise and keep going what you believe in.
Well, I believe in it wholeheartedly. Owwll.com, OWW, 2 W's and 2 L's.com. Founder Jason Hill, it is a pleasure and an honor to have you on. And I look forward to speaking to you again on the app very soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for joining us on Lifestyle Mastery with Dr. Sheila Smith. We hope that the insights, tips, and tools shared in this episode have inspired and empowered you to take control of your personal and professional life. Remember, personal development and entrepreneurship are a journey, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Keep applying the strategies and techniques you've learned, and never stop striving for your dreams. We'd love to hear from you. Please share your feedback and success stories on our website or social media platforms. And don't forget to subscribe to Lifestyle Mastery for even more expert insights and inspiration. Thanks again for being a part of our community. We look forward to continuing this journey of growth and success with you. And we'll see you again on our next episode.